Wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up about what this session is all about and how it's gonna run. So the focus of the session is really about helping us as women to get more visibility and more recognition for the great work that we're doing, so that we can really thrive and have the professional lives that we want. In terms of structure, we're going to be doing some very brief introductions so that we all know who's in the room a little bit. Then I'm going to be guiding us in a brief warm-up self-reflection exercise, which we will debrief in the breakout rooms. Then I will be introducing the framework that I've developed and giving you some insights about my thinking on how to approach this whole subject. I'll let then be a second breakout room in order to help you to integrate what I've been sharing with you. And then towards the end, there will be a demo to help you to all observe how this could pan out in practice. And also, before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and my journey and where the model comes from. So my first professional background is as a scientist. I've got a bachelor in physics. I've got a master's in environmental planning. I've worked in corporate IT. I've worked in project management. I've worked as a trainer. I'm a certified coach. I'm a certified focusing guide, and I'm a certified NARM-informed professional. NARM is a trauma-informed approach to coaching and therapy. So all of these things are in my background. And the model that I've developed primarily comes out of my observations and my research from working with, by now, hundreds of clients over the last 7 or so years that I've been working with corporate clients and with private clients. So that's just a little about what I'm bringing to the approach. And now I'm going to share my screen with you. And just want to check, can you all see my screen? It says yep. The rationale.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I want to point out to you that for the last 5,000 years or so, we've been living in a society that's been patriarchal. So that means that all of our organizations and all of our structures, most of them, were designed by men, for men, to meet their own needs and interests. Most organizations that we're part of, especially well-established organizations, were made by men to meet their own needs and interests, and I think specifically to meet the needs of white men, as opposed to men from ethnic minorities and so on, or men from different cultures. So as women, the organizations that we're working in and that we're part of were not made with our styles, with our energy, with our needs, with our traits in mind. And because of that, we've had to adapt. The fact that we've had to adapt is healthy. And you know, it's only been a little over a century, or in some cases less than a century, that women have had the right to vote, for instance, and that women have been allowed to have a life in public, have been able to have a life in public. And in our daily lives, we tend to forget about that. So we've had to adapt. And the fact that we've had to adapt is a good thing. I want to point out that men have to adapt as well. And it's part of how we grow up and what we need to do. So I want to point out that men and women, boys and girls, are socialized differently. So sometimes we have to adapt in different ways. Today, I'm going to be diving into a few kind of generalized styles that many people, especially women, use as a way to adapt, especially in the workplace. So there's no right or wrong about the adaptation styles. And I'm not saying this is how a person is. So it's not like, oh, I'm like this, I'm not like that. because I believe we've all got access to all of the adaptation styles. And there are many, many, many different ways in which people adapt to get on in the world. It's just these ones that we're going to be talking about are ones that are often used, and in fact, some of the things that you were saying earlier relate to the adaptation styles that I'll be talking about in a minute. Why is this useful? Well, the more aware you can become of what you as an individual or you in your work with colleagues, the more aware you can become of your situation, the more choice you've got. Why is that important? Well, if you've got choice, then that brings you freedom, because perhaps one day, now that you've got a certain awareness, you might make a different choice that might lead to a different result. So I would like to introduce you to my first one, and I've called her Mrs. Efficiency. So first of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Rebecca Rosen, who has designed the cartoons for me. But let me tell you about Mrs. Efficiency. So she's very good at doing an awful lot of things. She's very organized, she's very productive, she's well known in her organization as being an executor. She gets stuff done. If you want something done, you go to her because you know that she's going to deliver. She likes to do things herself because she says, well, if I don't do it myself, it's not going to happen, or someone else is going to do it and they're not going to do it very well. She is otherwise known as a superwoman, and she says to herself things like, well, I don't like to ask for help. I don't think I should be promoting myself. Of course, I've got to do everything myself. And she gets her self-worth from the fact that she's doing everything herself. So the next one I have for you is everyone's mum. So everyone's mum gets a lot out of the fact that she helps other people. She absolutely loves helping other people. She doesn't like conflict, and if other people are having a conflict, even if she's not involved, she will try and get involved because she wants to smooth everything out. She'll get involved where she doesn't necessarily belong. She tends to follow what other people want for her because she likes to keep them happy. So that means that her own priorities tend to say second place. She's too busy taking care of everything else. It means that she tends not to have so much time for strategic planning or for thinking about what's important for her. And of course, she gets her self-worth from helping other people. So the next one I have for you is a scared little girl. Now, she particularly shows up when she's in the presence of people who are a lot more senior to her, especially when she's in the presence of senior men. She can also show up in the presence of senior women, but she tends to be more prevalent in the presence of senior men. Of course, she's trying to impress them. So that means that she finds it really difficult to speak up. She wants to impress them, but she doesn't know how to speak up because she's so worried and so afraid. She thinks that she should be getting noticed because, well, she's doing all this hard work, so of course people should be noticing her. But she doesn't like to talk about it because she's kind of shy. She says things to herself like, I'd like a seat at the table. I want to contribute at a higher level. I deserve to be doing more. But she isn't doing more because she's not able to speak up for herself. And she gets her self-worth from the very people that she's trying to impress, but she's also kind of hiding from. So that's the scared little girl. And there's one more that I'd like to introduce to you. and her name is Little Miss Never Good Enough. I don't yet have a cartoon for her. This is a pilot that'll be coming in the next iteration of this workshop. So I also call her Hard Time Harriet, because Little Miss Never Good Enough is really hard on herself. She thinks that she should achieve a lot, but whatever it is that she's achieved, she's never satisfied. And she's driven to achieve more and better. And somehow, whatever it is she does is never enough. She sees the world through a glass that's half empty rather than a glass that's a half full. Sometimes she is so worried that she's going to fail that she finds it really difficult even to get started. And because she doesn't like to fail. And for her, she tends to have rather low self-esteem and self-worth. But when she does have the self-worth that she does have, she gets it from wanting to be perfect and getting the approval of others based on what she's done, what she's achieved. That's a great question, Idika. So we're not just heads walking around on legs. Yeah, we're body minds. So there's a lot of information that's held in the body. And in fact, there's more information coming from the body to the mind than from the mind to the body. So that's why it's important to remember that, we're a whole person. We're not just a head that's got thoughts, but there's a lot of information that's held in our body. A whole history is contained in our body. So, for instance, one of the reasons why we have the adaptation styles is that when we were younger, probably, and I think Saskia touched on this as well, that, we created these adaptation styles to deal with particular situations that were challenging. However, we have a tendency to carry on doing these things that we learned when we were younger. And so it's a way to reconnect with the whole of who you are. And I think Saskia's made a comment. She's like, yeah, it's really hard though to connect with my body. And it's a process. So, and I totally relate to what you say, Saskia. And for years and years and years and years, I was completely in my head and I was barely aware that I had a body. And that's why embodiment is a process. And some of the other mentees in the room are perhaps more even, also very experienced embodiment practitioners and embodiment trainers. It takes a long time for some of us, if we've grown up in an environment where, only the head is valued and only the mental state is valued, to reconnect with the whole of who we are. And it is a journey. And that's part of my work, is to help people to reconnect with the body, to reconnect with what's real. And I think Marie-Elaine gave us an excellent case where, by connecting with her body, she could reconnect with her real passion and why she's really in Egypt in the first place, if I understood it well.